One of the things that I think it's really important to understand is about the roles, and in my Sociodrama Handbook I devote a lot of space to roles, but I'll just explain why I think they're important. We play multiple roles, all sorts of roles, many of which we are unaware of. I mean, they're the standard roles: mother, father, brother, sister, friend, and then teacher, nurse, policeman. These are just some of the more well-known roles that we play. I'd like to touch on these first because they are quite interesting, because everyone knows them, and there are positive aspects of a role. So if we took the mother, a positive aspect of a role would be to allow her child to be able to develop freely. So an example might be the child gets on the wall and the child wants to walk along the wall. Well, a positive decision by the mother to allow the child to walk along the wall and walk behind the child, to allow the child to explore that wall for themselves so that they gather confidence and they can move on. That's positive. But a negative aspect of a mother's role would be suddenly the child gets on the wall, no, and to bring the child down and say it's too dangerous. Now, children love to experiment, and the more we allow them the freedom to experiment in a safe environment, then the quicker they will develop, the more confident they become, and they would grow more powerful and in themselves to be able to take on the difficulties and the complexities of the world. Fathers, a positive role would be the child comes to the father and asks about different aspects, like where have you been today, Daddy, and what's been happening. And the father, positive role is to sit with the child and explain, and certainly answer any questions that the child has, and to give time. A negative role would be to say, I haven't got time, no, ask me later, go and talk to your mum, and dismiss the child. And so they break communication, and the child then builds up a distance from the father and feels let down, feels that he's not worthy, lacks the confidence. And so it's very important. And then of course there's a whole line between that, between extremes. And you can place yourself somewhere along the line, I'm sure. So when we talk about positive and negative roles, there are those which enhance the well-being of a person, and those which destroy, and negative vibes are put upon people, which are really unhelpful. We shouldn't be negative to people, and certainly not to young people. Because the more positive we are, then the more positive that they can feel. And the roles are very interesting, because if you look at the role of a policeman, a policeman could be an authority figure, and they come up against someone who's being very mouthy and giving them a bad time. What should the role of the policeman be? Well, first of all, the policeman needs to say, this is not unacceptable. This is inappropriate behaviour. And my first port of call, if I was a policeman, would be to take the young person home. I don't have any problem. I always have when I've worked with young people. If the attitude is very, very poor and the language and the behaviour is inappropriate, I go home. And then I sit with them and discuss with the parent what is the appropriate behaviour. And this has a lot of respect. First of all, parents don't particularly like when someone comes into the home about their child. And sometimes people can be very aggressive. And I've had all that, and I've dealt with all that. And I've had to explain and educate parents that, it's not good you're yelling at me, because that's what your child has been doing. You don't like being yelled at. You don't like being called names and vilified, and I don't like that. And invariably, in most cases I've dealt with, parents have calmed down, began to talk, and then we get on to other issues about problems with the child and so on, and we try and then talk through it. And in the end, I have become friends with so many parents over the years because of the way that I approach things. Because I believe that in our own roles, whatever our role is, we need to be positive, and we mustn't live in fear about what we do. And I fear that many people back down. They're not secure in being able to face the challenges that come up in life. So, for instance, if we have a boss and the boss takes on the role of a bullying person and makes life poor for the people who work under them, then you need to challenge it. The workers need to challenge it and say, look, this is totally unacceptable. I don't have to do that. I don't have to work here. I don't have to work in situations like that. This is your problem. You sort your problems out. And we need to take that role, but we can only do that if we feel confident within ourselves. And I feel very confident. I feel very confident to walk over any situation or any place where I feel uncomfortable. And if the person won't change or won't listen, then I just disengage and walk away. And because it is their problem. And we mustn't take on, our role isn't to take on other people's problems. Our role is to become a positive identity for our children and for people, our relatives and people around us, so they can recognise our own worth. So to understand roles, we need to think about, well, what is a role and how do these roles affect our lives? So, you know, when we look at a role of a cleaner, well, we all take the cleaning role. We clean up around the house. But some people take that role and they do it professionally. They're professional cleaners. And if we understood that role, we should then give them the highest respect. And we don't. We should give them the status that they deserve, because someone who takes the role of a cleaner and does a positive job, a really good job, that's a very positive role. As against a cleaner who just goes over things. You come in and it's dirty, you go in the place and it's not clean. And that's the same as a role of a waitress, waiter, shopkeeper. These are very important roles. Good service is something that I really value. And when you see a shopkeeper with a smile, giving you good service and wanted to help you and what have you, that really enhances your experience of going shopping and gives you wonderful well-being. But to be met by, as I have, by a surly person who says, "What do you want?" or by waiting for a long time and you don't get service, that's a negative role of a person being a waiter, a waitress. And what we need to do is we need to say that every role that people takes can be positive and negative, and then give it the status. We shouldn't just give politicians or film stars or footballers or all these people who make vast sums of money, which I personally I don't think there's a need for. We should have a more equitable society where we can all share, where every role that a person takes and what they do, if they do it well, is something that's so important to our society and the running of society. So, and children have roles. We should look at the role of children and how children behave. And for me, children need to understand that there is correct behaviour. And if they come up with negative behaviour, then it's not punishment. I'm very much against punishing people. I think that's totally negative. What we need to do is educate people. We need to modify behaviour so that people act in an appropriate way. So we need to do that with children. When children are rude or whatever, there are problems that we will solve. But till they can discuss with us, and so they've calmed down, whatever, then they have to go somewhere. They have to sit on what I call the naughty step on the stairs, which I think is where we can keep an eye on them. They sit there and it seems to work very effectively. So parenting, the role of parenting is absolutely essential. I mean, you could take any role at all in our society, and we should be looking at it. And this is what we should be learning at school. These are just absolutely fundamental to the well-being of society. It's more important than a lot of what we learn, because most of the stuff we learn at school doesn't help society and help our well-being. It's just facts and knowledge, which in many ways has no use. I mean, that is my take, and I've been in education for a long time.